Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I just took my 10-year-old and I'm still throwing baseballs to this kid, and he's getting better. He's still developing as a switch hitter, and he's coming along. I believe he's going to start hitting balls over the fence here shortly. CoinPaprika.com, who is one of my sponsors, check this out. XRP for the last 24 hours is leading the pack, but it hadn't been a real interesting market today. Now, before we get going, I want to remind everybody that Link to, who is one of my sponsors, link in the top of the description. You can click on that link and you can say DAI sent you. Now listen, these jokers, they put Ripple on the Ripple equity on the platform, and they lowered the usually you have to buy at least $10,000 worth, but they lowered it to $5,000. It's still at that place. So and there's so many. Remember this case. I believe that any second, there's a lot of pressure. People are jumping ship over the SEC. I'll show you that. Remember, at some point, they're going to be like, oh, I want some of that Ripple equity, and that'll be when it's too late, folks. Okay, Mr. Whale, when XRP wins against the SEC, hell breaks loose. That, my friends, is a thumbnail. I'll use it. Hell breaks loose, because I agree with it. Hell, I don't know if there's anybody else that writes thumbnails while they do their show, but I like doing it that way. It's funny. Now, this guy's been putting out these interesting little shorts on XRP. I've thought about, let me know if you want me to do some shorts. I'm not like talking about the way he's doing them, but apparently the shorts are a pretty popular thing, and he did a pretty interesting little short here. Watch this. I don't know his name.
XRP has to be at a high price point. That high price point is really impossible to know.
It does have to be at a high price. The price has to be high. That's what David Schwartz said. So he's right about that.
Looking at markets that are a couple of $1 trillion, you can assume that the XRP price, when used in all of those transactions, would be at quite a high price. However, I was watching a cryptocurrency video yesterday, and he's talking about Codius. For example, Codius would allow you through smart contracts to be able to buy a house and send the deeds through the blockchain and through the Codius system. So when all the parties of a transaction agree, X happens. And so you actually avoid all third parties in this way. However, this isn't just a couple of $1 trillion market that they're trying to tackle here. The global derivatives market, which Codius would be integrating with, is $700 trillion. What do you think the price is going to be after all of that? Oh, and did I mention that David Schwartz said that if he wasn't working on Ripple, he would want to be working in Codius? Did you also know that Polysign, Codius, and XRP are working together? Come on now, stop sleeping on XRP. There are places where I buy my XRP. They are all listed in my profile.
All right. True story. And Codius is not dead. That was from Miguel Valles back in around 2019. But we were supposed to believe that it was dead around, 2015? And Codius, for those of you that don't know, is Ripple created smart contract. Stefan Thomas at Ripple, Vitalik Buterin was sleeping on his couch. Stefan Thomas and what's the other guy's name? The guy that said all the money, Evan Schwartz. They're the ones that, my understanding is, that created Codius, and then Vitalik Buterin got the idea from talking to Stefan Thomas and went off and created Ethereum. Now, Ripple just put out a new commercial. Success happens through change, not chance. That's why we're empowering innovative finance leaders to change the way they do finance and drive business advantage with crypto. Who's joining us? Check this out.
Finance is always moving. But is it really moving forward? Or is it just stuck in the same old cycle? Crypto solutions are transforming finance, making it faster and more efficient than we ever thought possible, moving us all into a dynamic new era. Ripple. Crypto means business.
I like it. That's exciting. When they're putting out commercials, vision. All right, and then Eric Van Meltenberg, who works at Ripple. In fact, when I was in Singapore at Ripple Swell 2019, I remember him walking out of a room. I didn't get to talk to him, but I do remember seeing him. Anyway, he says crypto is a matter of when, not if. That's a thumbnail right there. When, not if. All right. Great thumbnail. Thanks, Eric Van Meltenberg. When, not if. And the benefits can deliver for institutions and enterprises are only growing. Really fired up to see Ripple launch this new campaign, and so am I. French Hill, who is in Congress, representative from Arkansas, sent a letter to Financial Committee GOP leader Patrick McHenry and Committee Republicans Digital Asset Working Group requesting Attorney General Garland provide his assessment on Federal Reserve's authority to issue a CBDC. Then Tom Emmer came in and says the Biden admin wrote a report on how they could issue a CBDC behind the back of Congress and the American people. Look, folks, there's thumbnail worthy too. Biden administration's trying to work on a secret hidden. What do you have? This is great. Secret hidden CBDC. That's what he said. Now they aren't sharing the report with Congress, and I think he said something else. We'll be very clear. There's no alternative to authorizing a CBDC other than through legislation. And Congress won't approve a CBDC unless it's open, permissionless, and private. I commend Representative Hill for leading this letter support. Okay. Now, this is interesting right here, folks. Remember the other day when Gary Gensler went after Kim Kardashian? She was promoting a token. Charles Gasparino says, scoop. SEC enforcement staffers are complaining Gary Gensler violated protocol by hyping Kardashian settlement. Hyping settlement. There you go. That's another good thumbnail. I have to write them on my notepad. Hyping settlement appearing on CNBC within minutes of the case being announced. People with direct knowledge tell Fox Business they're calling it a publicity stunt. That's what they said in the Fortune article I think I covered in the last video. Designed to burnish his reputation to be named Treasury Secretary. They also said Gensler stealthily approached CNBC for his appearance and created a video on the settlement. An unusual move for chairs who usually allow staff to take credit for actions and pursue broader issues. It's the latest skirmish between Gensler and Enforcement Department that continues to lose attorneys amid complaints about Gensler's management style and workload as the SEC dives into non-traditional areas of enforcement, i.e. corporate ESG mandates. SEC had no immediate comment. So Gary is getting thrown overboard. Now, I had a conversation with my father, who's the official father. He's not a sponsor of the Digital Asset Investor channel. He's just the official father. And he was going on today about the XRP escrow, and he said, I have to believe this whole case. It's all about escrow. And I told him, I said, I believe it's about two things. Just like Kim Kardashian, Gary Gensler, all this guy cares about is having trophies on his wall. Kim Kardashian is the top, most popular influencer in the world probably, and he wants her on his wall. It's not about protecting investors. It's not about being a good SEC chairman. It's about Gary Gensler and looking good and being able to go and be the Treasury Secretary. So he needed her on that wall. And the truth is that the law is not even in line with what he did to her. What he tried to do is tried to say that, you have to disclose the amount of money you're making or something ridiculous like that. John Deaton actually did a post on it and said that's not the law. In fact, ask yourself this question. In your entire life, have you ever heard any advertisement on anywhere, CNBC, Fox, any channel, where they said, hey, This is my sponsor, and I made $1 million on this ad for doing that. It's the dumbest thing ever, and he did it to put that trophy on his wall. Now, what this is about is two things with the Ripple lawsuit. This is what I told my father, the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel. It's about two things. Ripple is the ultimate trophy for Gary's wall. Remember, he met with Jay Clayton. And I got some bad news for all of you. If you think, well, I think Ripple, here's what I think happened. We talk about how Ripple is winning and all that. But unfortunately, I think that when the story ends, both sides are going to be able to say they won. And what I mean by that is, yeah, even though Ripple kicked his butt a lot more than he probably ever thought they did in this whole thing, I believe this thing ends before you ever see any emails. And for that reason, it'll come out. Remember what Ripple wants. They want XRP as not a security from this day going forward, period. If they get that, I'll bet you those guys would write him a check that's big enough to give him his next trophy on the wall so that he can hold up his hand and say, see, look what I did. I got the biggest settlement in history. And the only reason that he got it is because he engineered it so that he was the chairman when the Ripple case came along, because he always knew that's what was going to happen. Is even when it did settle, it would be probably one of the largest settlements. That's what I think. Now, I think it'll be a lot smaller than it was going to be, mainly because of the XRP army. I don't think he ever counted on being in a position where these Hinman emails were an issue, but they are. And so I don't think it'll be what it would have been, but I still think it'll be quite large, and he'll give Ripple what they want. That's how I see this thing ending. Now I just don't see this guy letting this thing go to a judgment. I think he has to work something out at the very last second. And trust me, I think he'll wait to the last second. But I think it's about give Ripple what they want, get the record settlement, but also have some kind of agreement about that escrow. Remember, don't forget this video. And a reminder, my dad told me he wanted me to talk about the escrow and how that is involved in this SEC case.
With another central monopolist, a lot of commercial banks aren't terribly excited about that. Maybe you're going to have to give some ownership. Maybe you'll have to give 50% of your ownership to the 20 banks that are now, part of this. I mean, there are other ways to build incentive systems. Maybe you put a native token in there, and you give them the native token.
You see where this is going, folks? Gary's the negotiator. Gary works for Wall Street. And it wasn't, don't just take my word for it. This is Jeremy Hogan. It's probably over a year ago back. It was March 8th, 2021, probably in one of his videos. What happens to the XRP that Ripple holds in escrow? That's what this is all about. It's all about the escrow. The escrow. Let me write it down. All about. And that's the fact, Jack. Okay. Now, Empower came out. Remember, they're the ones that did the Freedom of Information Act request and got all those emails from the SEC, and then they sued them because the SEC tried to give them the runaround. Empower Oversight exposes SEC's bad faith FOIA tactics in crypto conflicts lawsuit filed its opposition to the SEC's motion for summary judgment. Filing demonstrates the SEC intentionally misinterpreted the plain text of the request, admittedly ignored statutory deadlines without cause, and solicited search terms. My question in all this, folks, is when is a judge going to give the SEC some consequences? Not just in this, but in the Ripple lawsuit. I mean, you're saying that they're not being faithful to the law. Well, what are their repercussions? Everybody else has repercussions. Ripple has repercussions. Library has repercussions. Can get fined and all this other stuff. If you lie in court and you're an average Joe, you can be put in jail for contempt. What's Gary Gensler's repercussions? What's Bill Hinman's repercussions? What's the SEC's repercussions? Because it seems to me they're the ones that are doing all the lying and the obfuscation and hiding things and not being upfront and not protecting investors. Where's their culpability in all this? That's my question. Jason Foster from Empower. Here's a link to the full filing and exhibits. Bottom line here is what we asked for and how the SEC eventually refused to search for it. But before that, SEC officials started by just ignoring the request, forcing us to sue before they would do anything. Now, after wasting time and money with avoidable litigation, they have the audacity to claim that statutory deadlines simply do not matter. The SEC complained that our request was too broad and burdensome, but it didn't tell the court the whole story. In fact, anyway, this is an agency gone rogue, folks. But who holds them accountable? If the judge is not going to hold them accountable, Congress is not going to hold them accountable, who does? Then Crypto Law, which is John Deaton's law firm, said government watchdog, says Jason Foster notes, Hinman Lynn emails uncovered an incomplete release that raised new questions about Hinman's conflicts of interest in office. In May this year, Empower sent a referral to the SEC Inspector General based on documents that raised questions about the failure of the SEC and Ethics Office. So this is still going on. Nobody's holding them accountable. Kim Kardashian gets held accountable. What about the SEC? There are criminal conflicts, folks, that have been found. Who holds them accountable? What happened to this country? What is going on in this country? Where none of these all these people are just corrupt and they do whatever they want. The judges don't do anything. Congress doesn't do anything. Both sides of the aisle. It's not any one side of the aisle. It's both of them. What's going on? What does the future look like for our children when these people are all above the law and nobody does anything? Senator Loomis, Tom Emmer, Warren Davidson, Gillibrand, none of you have said anything about any of this. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that this country has become lawless, at least when it comes to the powerful and the politicians and the bureaucrats. What in the world's going on?